There's something undeniably captivating about solo travel: the freedom, the self-discovery, the thrill of the unknown. But what happens when the unknown becomes a little too real? When adventure turns into disappearance and the road less traveled becomes the last road taken? These are the chilling, heartbreaking, and at times mystifying stories of 10 solo travelers whose journeys ended in tragedy. From forest trails to distant peaks and even bustling cities, each story carries a whisper of danger and a heavy shadow of loss. Strap in, because these tales won't just stick with you, they'll follow you. Grace Mullane, a date that turned deadly. Grace Mullane was celebrating the trip of a lifetime. She had just turned 22, graduated from university, and was backpacking through New Zealand, an adventure many dream of. During her travels, she met a man through a dating app. They shared drinks, laughter, and what looked like a typical night in Auckland's nightlife. But what happened next shattered any sense of normalcy. Grace was never seen again. The man she met that night later claimed she died accidentally during an intimate encounter. But as investigators dug deeper, his version of the story didn't hold up. CCTV footage, inconsistent messages, and disturbing online searches painted a much darker picture. Her body was discovered in a shallow grave in the Waitakere Ranges, and the man, whose name was initially suppressed, was convicted of her murder. Grace's story sparked international outrage and a deep conversation around dating apps' safety, consent, and the risks faced by solo female travelers. Her name became a symbol of how a trip meant to empower and enlighten could be derailed by something as deceptively ordinary as a first date. Louisa Vesterager, Jespersen, and Maren Uland, Terror in the Atlas Mountains. Two friends, Louisa and Maren, were exploring Morocco with the kind of passion that only true nature lovers have. They were studying to become tour guides and dreamed of traversing the world. On their way to trek Mount Toubkal, the highest peak in North Africa, they set up camp near the village of Imlil. What happened next was unspeakable. They were targeted by extremists who had pledged allegiance to ISIS. The attackers had been watching them for days, planning every move. In the dead of night, the two women were brutally murdered, and the crime was filmed in a chilling video later verified by multiple authorities. The footage, once circulated online, sparked global outrage. 18 people were arrested, and the main perpetrators were sentenced to death, despite Morocco not having carried out executions in decades. Louisa and Maren's story is a gut-wrenching reminder that even the most serene landscapes can harbor danger. They had done what most travelers do: prepared, researched, and trusted the path ahead. But evil had been watching. Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, lost in the Panamanian jungle. Chris and Lisanne were two Dutch students volunteering in Panama when they decided to hike the trails around Boquete. They were smart, organized, and kept in touch with family regularly. But on April 1st, 2014, they vanished. Days turned into weeks. Then the clues began appearing. Their phones were found deep in the jungle, but with puzzling call logs. Many failed attempts to call emergency services. Photos taken after their disappearance showed dense forest, strange angles, and one image taken in total darkness. 2 months later, pieces of their remains were discovered, scattered and partially buried. Their backpack was dry and intact, sitting atop a rock filled with their belongings and phones. The mystery deepened when it was revealed that one of the women's phones had been turned on and unlocked several days after their last confirmed sighting. Theories have swirled for years. Was it a tragic accident, or was someone else out there? The case remains one of the internet's most enduring and heartbreaking mysteries. Lars Mittank, the airport disappearance that still haunts. Lars Mittank wasn't a typical backpacker. He was just a regular guy from Germany enjoying a vacation in Bulgaria with friends. But toward the end of the trip, things started to unravel. He got into a minor altercation at a bar and was advised not to fly due to an ear injury. His friends flew home, and Lars stayed back alone. That's when everything got strange. He became paranoid, texting his mother saying he was being followed. He even told her not to cancel his credit card. A day later, CCTV at the airport captured him calmly walking through the terminal, until suddenly, something made him sprint out the doors and into the forest. He was never seen again. Despite multiple leads and years of searching, no trace of Lars has been found. The security footage of him fleeing remains one of the most eerie pieces of true crime media. His case remains open, his fate still unknown. Azaria Chamberlain, the cry that echoed across Australia. In 1980, the Chamberlain family was camping near Uluru, then known as Ayers Rock. Their 9-week-old daughter, Azaria, was asleep in a tent when she disappeared. Her mother, Lindy Chamberlain, insisted a dingo had taken her baby. It sounded unbelievable to many. There were cries of foul play, and the media turned the case into a national circus. Despite evidence of dingo tracks and blood near the tent, Lindy was convicted of murder. She spent years in prison until, in a stunning twist, Azaria's jacket was found in a dingo den in 1986. Eventually, all charges were overturned, but the damage was done. Public opinion had swayed a courtroom, and a family paid the price. Azaria's case remains a powerful example of how truth can be stranger than fiction, and how mob mentality can derail justice. Esther Dingley, a journey cut short in the Pyrenees. Esther was on a solo trek in the Pyrenees Mountains, straddling the border between France and Spain. She was experienced, fit, and in love with life on the trail. Her partner, Dan, was waiting back at their camper van when her messages stopped. For months, there were no answers. Her disappearance drew headlines across Europe. Then, in the summer, some of her bones were found, but the skull was found separately, far from the rest. It sparked fresh questions. Was it an animal? Was it a fall? Or was it something more sinister? Her story is one of beauty, heartbreak, and unanswered questions left hanging in the mountain air. Inga Maria Hauser, the cold case that still burns. Inga was an 18-year-old from Germany traveling across the UK and Ireland. Independent and brave, she was documenting every part of her journey through postcards and journals. Her last entry was hopeful, but she never made it to her next stop. Her body was found in a forest in Northern Ireland, brutally beaten, signs of a sexual assault, and with her passport missing. Yet decades later, no one has been convicted of her murder. The DNA profile exists, but there's still no match. Her family fought for justice until their last days. Her sister continues the battle, hoping the forest will one day give up its secrets. Inga had chosen to travel alone, trusting in the kindness of strangers and the safety of quiet towns. Locals remembered her as cheerful and polite, seen boarding a ferry and asking for directions with a smile. She was the kind of traveler who sent handwritten postcards home, not just to her parents, but to friends too. When her body was discovered, her journal was still intact, with entries full of excitement and warmth. Police believed she had accepted a ride from someone familiar with the forest, someone who never meant for her to leave alive. The investigation grew into the largest DNA sweep in UK history, but the killer remained elusive. Today, memorials mark the place where she was found, visited by those who never knew her but feel connected to her story. Her face, frozen in youthful innocence, continues to appear on missing persons posters, not because she's still missing, but because justice is. Catherine Shaw, chasing a sunrise in Guatemala. Catherine was a 23-year-old yoga teacher from a peaceful village in Oxfordshire. On a trip through Central America, she stayed at an eco-lodge near Lake Atitlan in Guatemala. That morning, she left before sunrise, chasing beauty with a stray puppy beside her. She never returned. A massive search followed. Helicopters, drones, sniffer dogs, dive teams. Days later, her body was found 100 meters off a trail, decomposed and unclothed. It sparked endless speculation online, but a coroner later ruled it an accidental death, possibly due to fasting, dehydration, and a fall. Her story is soaked in sorrow. She was just trying to witness a sunrise. Catherine's family described her as deeply spiritual, someone who believed in living with intention and connection to nature. Her decision to leave behind her passport, money, and phone puzzled many, but those close to her said it was in line with how she often sought solitude and clarity during her travels. Locals recalled seeing her smile as she played with the puppy the night before, completely unaware that it would be her final evening. Even more haunting was how the dog was later found alone, crying on the trail as if searching for her. That image, more than anything, stayed with people. It was a silent testimony of a bond briefly formed, a moment of trust and innocence in a world that can turn suddenly cruel. Her loved ones continue to honor her by sharing her artwork and yoga teachings, choosing to remember the light she spread rather than how it was lost. Leafy Hang, trapped by a storm on Mount Baldy. Leafy Hang was a 22-year-old UC Irvine student with a love for solo hikes. She set out for Mount Baldy in California, known for its breathtaking views and dangerous terrain. But she didn't know a powerful atmospheric river storm was approaching. She posted videos as snow began to fall, then silence. Search teams battled heavy snow and avalanche risks. A civilian's drone eventually spotted a possible body, but the rescue had to wait. On the 6th day, rescuers reached the site. She had been overtaken by the storm. Her story is a chilling reminder of how nature can change in an instant, and how even the most prepared adventurers can be caught off guard. Julian Sands, the actor who vanished into thin air. Julian Sands, known for his roles in A Room with a View and The Killing Fields, loved hiking. In early 2023, he ventured out alone into the same Mount Baldy terrain where Leafy Hang had lost her life weeks earlier. He never came back. Months passed. Searches were hampered by snow, wind, and ice. When the weather cleared, human remains were found and later confirmed to be his. It stunned fans worldwide, not just because of who he was, but because of how swiftly the mountain had swallowed him. His story joined a growing list of tragedies on that unforgiving peak. Julian had often spoken of the spiritual peace he found in nature, and hiking was more than just a pastime. It was a ritual. He wasn't unfamiliar with the dangers either. Friends say he had a healthy respect for the wild, but Mount Baldy, deceptively close to the buzz of Los Angeles, hides its deadliest tricks in plain sight. The area had claimed multiple lives in recent years, yet its trails remained popular among locals and tourists alike. Even the most seasoned hikers have found themselves disoriented by rapidly changing weather, crumbling paths, and sudden drops. Julian's death reignited calls for stricter warnings and better signage on the mountain. In the days that followed, hikers left flowers and handwritten notes at the trailhead, turning it into a quiet memorial. For many, it wasn't just the loss of a great actor, it was a reminder that nature doesn't discriminate. One wrong step, one bad hour, and the wilderness takes over. Each of these stories began with hope, an open trail, a new experience, a leap into the unknown. But the world, as beautiful as it is, can sometimes be unforgiving. These travelers were brave, curious, and full of life. They ventured far from home, not knowing they'd become cautionary tales whispered across borders and decades. Their stories aren't just about what went wrong, they're about remembering who they were and holding on to the lessons they left behind. If this video moved you, consider sharing it to help keep their stories alive. And if you'd like to hear more haunting true tales like these, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Stay curious, but stay safe out there.